Hello everyone, welcome. Today I wanted to talk about my cluster and what I was working on this week. So as you know, I have my home lab. I've deployed some monitoring. I've got these cool Grafana dashboards, which is great. And I was inspired last week by somebody that I know, who I work with, who did a very similar sort of thing, to leverage Kagent with Slack to give us a direct line to communicate to our cluster. A way of which to troubleshoot it and kind of interact with our cluster in natural language. So I thought, yeah, I can do this. As you can see here, I've got my Kagent running. I've got a Slack bot, which is what I'm going to talk about in this video. I've also got like my Kagent UI running as well, which we can see here. And the one that I've actually built this Slack bot to work with is the K8 agent, which is kind of like the default one that comes out of the box from Kagent, which is just, you know, for anybody that wants to just start interacting with this stuff, they give you some fantastic out-of-the-box tools. So let me show you exactly what it is that I've built and I've deployed. So you can see here, I've actually run this a few times, but let's start like a new conversation. I'm just going to be like, hey, Kagent, how's it going? How's it going? How is my cluster looking? Any issues? Right? Boom. So as you can see, look, straight away, we've got this thing here, we've got a reply, right? I've got a notification, I've got some activity going on. It's processing my request. So this was something that I put in to kind of give me like a instant feedback if it's working or not. So hopefully in a minute, this is going to come, and there we go. Look, you can see here. So all three nodes, worker 1, 2, 3, are in a ready state. That's good. In fact, let's just kind of, let's do this to make it easier in terms of like, you know, sense checking, kubectl get nodes, right? I'm not interested in that. Yeah, there we go. We're all in a ready state. Good. Most pods across the namespace. Can I make this disappear? Would be nice. And this, I mean, I suppose I could just pop out, can I? There we go. So all nodes, yep, look good. Most pods across the namespaces are running. Okay, kubectl get pods across all namespaces. Yeah, most of them are running. Does look like we've got some pending issues here. Gateway stuff, no ports. Something I potentially and probably should look into. Is that what we've picked up here? Yeah, no ports. Yeah, most pods are correct. However, there is some issues with, yeah, no ports. So you can see here, it's picking up exactly what I'm picking up. Events indicate there's, okay, so let's have a look. kubectl get events. Yeah, there we go. Registered node, issue with nodes, free disk space of it. No, that's fine. Okay, cool. Yeah. So you can see there is some issues definitely to be worked out. Nothing major, but definitely potential problems going forwards. As you know, this is like my home lab, so it's not exactly the end of the world. It's good that it doesn't work perfectly because it gives me something to work on. Otherwise, I'd have nothing to do. And what else is going on here? A few warnings about name server limits exceed. See, this is an issue I'm having just because of my home lab, because it's got a maximum of 3 and I've put like 4 or something like that. Daemon set pods Istio, this is like, again, networking, probably related to no ports. It's given me an analysis summary. All right, this is pretty cool. Cluster appears to be, yep, that's fine. That's what we just discussed. Pod failures, rescheduling, yep. Issues with Loki and no ports. And the cool thing is it's kind of come back and it's actually given me next steps on how to investigate this, how to fix it, and kind of like what I can do going forwards. So this is very cool. So I can review this and yeah, awesome. And I can actually start, I can interact with my agent here, like my Slack bot, and we could start detailing the problems and maybe give us a step-by-step. So let's just get one more piece of feedback. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask it, give me a step-by-step to fix the problem, see what it comes with. I'm not going to go and try and fix it in this video. I'll probably do that another time. This is more just about the agent and the bot that I built. So there you go. So point, this is the main point here. And actually, there's an easier way of demonstrating it. One of the challenges I faced with this is context, or like the memory issue. So if we do, and this is like a really simple way to test it if anybody else is looking to do this. How many namespaces do I have? Okay, right. It's going to go away. It's going to come back. It's going to say it's looking at it. Perfect. This part is working correctly. It has 10 namespaces. Now, to test whether or not it actually remembers the conversation in the thread, because I'm in the thread here, as you can see, I'm going to say, Kagent, tell me about the first one. Now, if it remembers and if it can read its history, its conversational history, it should tell me about apps. And it did. You have 10 namespaces. Yeah, you have 10 namespaces in your cluster. The first namespace is apps, which is what we know. We can see that here, right? Here are the details. So at Kagent, tell me about the third one in the list. I'm pushing it again. So hopefully it is going to remember the conversation. It's going to have a look at the flux system. Yeah, your third namespace in your list is the flux system. And this just means that it can have contextual awareness for continued conversation. An issue that I was having was that wasn't happening. So if I go back to like early ones, here, no, that's listing it. Here, nope. This one, maybe. Yeah, so like it had no idea what I was talking about. So ask the first question, how many namespaces do I have? You currently have 10, which is the same as the other response. Perfectly fine. Next question, what tools do you have available? Oh, that's not what I asked. Let's try a different conversation. I had a few different, this one? Nope. You can see I've done so many tests. It is unreal. Here we go, right. So ask the question, list all deployments. Here is a list of the deployments, okay? Same concept as the namespaces. How many replicas does the first one have? So that would be, A to A. And you can see here, to provide an answer, what do you mean by the first one? And it's like, yeah, you don't know what I'm talking about. And then you can see here, I've done a few more like conversations. Tell me about the first one. Can you clarify what you mean by the first one? And oh my God, I went back and forth so many times. Basically, there's a relationship between the conversation it creates with Kagent and the thread, which was something, of course, being relatively new to Python, I had no idea where to start. I can actually see the conversations that we're having in my UI, if I can get it to pin to the side, which apparently I can't. Pin, there we go. All right, okay, so we're talking to the agent here. Next challenge is actually to get the title populated here, which would be nice. But if I have a look at this first one, you can see it's the same question as what we had here. How's my cluster going? Oh no, how many namespaces? This one, yeah. How many namespaces? How many namespaces? You can see here exactly the same conversation. In the UI, I can actually see the argument and I can also see the result. And then it's printed out here as well. So it's a mirror copy, but it's to reduce some contextual switching. So I don't have to open up a browser and I don't have to go to here and I don't have to log in. I can just do it through Slack and have a conversation. And not only that, this can have a conversation with other people involved. So if somebody else was here, so say we had two SREs, we're both sat here, we're both looking at Slack. I'm having a conversation with my Slack bot. Somebody else could jump in and ask a question and it will put it in the same conversation thread, which something is, through the UI right now, I can't do. But it is something I can do through Slack. It gives me the platform to do that, which is very cool. I mean, I thought it was very cool anyway. And tell me about the first one, everything like that. Very cool. I like it. Very awesome. So let's have a look at the code. Putting all the cards on the table. I've said it before. I am not a build from scratch Python developer. So this has been kind of scaffolded using AI, and then I've worked on it and iterated it and then improved it and reduced it and then worked on it again. I've gone through several versions. There's been, a lot. But here's the main outcome. I don't know how well you can see this. I think I can probably bump it. There we go. To make it a little bit easier to read. But essentially, I am using these libraries, the Slack, right? Slack Bolt. to create the bot, and then I'm using Slack sockets to connect to the bot. So I'm not using any Slack MCPs here or anything like that. The tool does exist. Yes, I could use it. It's more overhead and requires more authentication. This way, I can actually create a bot, create a secret, and then just fire it away. The details of what we actually need. So some of the requirements here, you see here, Slack, env for when I'm doing it locally. Just import over my local environment variables. Excuse my phone. Yeah, local environment variables. I'm going to have the bot token. I'm going to have the app token. They're the only 2 tokens I need. I made this kind of quick start to kind of like, I will make this readily available to anyone to iterate and make better. Mine is very thrown together. But, I've kind of put in here the bare minimum of what you need in terms of the Slack bot, and creating your own Slack bot. One of the hurdles I actually hit was ensuring I actually turned on event subscriptions because I was going back and forth. It was not firing up, and it was because I forgot to turn that on. Of course, all of this is free, so it's running on free Slack, it's running on Kubernetes with open source software. There's nothing like paid for here. You could run it on like Rancher Desktop as well. I'm just running it on my nodes. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I've also kind of like provided, a Kubernetes deployment that pulls the image, how to build the image, and everything like that. But if we go back to the Slack bot itself, so here, I'm not going to go into this, but essentially I'm using A2A to have the conversation, connect the dots between the thread, the message, and the conversation, and then feeding it back. It's pretty cool, I'm quite happy with what it's done. My original iteration was like 130 lines. This one is like, I think I went up to 300. Yeah, 309. And I've got some logging in there because running it locally, I needed some logging. I needed some errors. And yeah, got there in the end. Very, very cool. I'll make this available to anyone that wants to look at it. If I look for, where is the actual A2A URL? That's what I want to just show you. Because if I have it defined, where's it defined? Do I have it defined somewhere? I must do, surely. I want to show it. I want to talk about it. I wonder if I put it in my README instead. Not instead, but as well as. And that's how to fire it up. Creating secrets, what you need. A2A protocol, we know that. This is what the stream request looks like. So yeah, context ID for the continuity. This is what I spoke about previously. And format. So I also had an issue. Once I actually fixed the thread conversation, I then broke some format in terms of the message and everything like this. So this part, such a pain. For me, anyway, for somebody that works with A2A, it was probably quite straightforward to like troubleshoot. But for me, it was a learning curve, and yeah, I learned a lot. Where have I put it? That's the A2A. Yes, but that's just the endpoint check, which here. But I mean, I can use this. So what I wanted to mention was that if you do deploy this and you do deploy Kagent, by default it deploys to Kagent namespace. Mine is not in the Kagent namespace. Mine is deployed through, a fairly simple flux using GitOps. So mine is actually in the apps namespace. And I'm talking to the Kagent, the K8 agent. So that's how that address works. So A2A is on 8083, and then you've got A2A as a protocol, and then we've got the namespace, and then we've got the agent. I could create a new agent with less tools. So, like a least privilege type thing, which of course I'll do at some point. And then the destination would be something like apps, read-only agent or something. And that's how that would work. And it's pretty cool, to be honest. I provided some information here about running it locally. You can test it with like not MCP inspector. You can test it locally by just like reviewing the logs and then pinging it from Slack. Saying it over now, it feels actually like not a lot. However, it did take a lot of iterations to just kind of get the authentication and everything working. Dockerfile, again, is quite small. I was building this on a MacBook, so I had added in some, tomfoolery there. in terms of how the Docker was building, because if I was building it on my local Mac and then pushing it up and running it on like my Kubernetes cluster, it was crashing, so I had to fix that because obviously I completely forgot about that. So just to go over it again one more time for demonstration purposes, let's do another conversation. I don't know what to ask. I'd love some ideas. I know. Let's give it, instead of telling me, let's get it to do something. Can you restart, right? So let's say, for example, something went wrong and you need to restart the deployments. So can you restart, I don't know, what deployments do I have there? Okay, so first of all, let's get our deployments. Then we'll have a theoretical problem, and then we'll ask it to theoretically fix it. We say, at Kagent, can you restart start deployment YouTube KMCP? See what it does with this first. Let's get a process request. Hopefully it's going to come back. I understand you want me to restart. It's important to confirm this action. Yes, proceed. Okay, cool. So I've given it permission. I'm telling it to proceed. Hopefully it's going to roll out. I've just kind of like asked it to do stuff and I've not given it enough context. So restart. Let's do it another way. Restart the deployment KMCP YouTube. Is that what it's called? Oh, YouTube KMCP in the apps namespace. And we'll see if that works. And of course we can see here the new conversation and it's working. So what are the potential use cases for this? Well, I think there's a few, one of which is cross-team like communication with natural language to your cluster over Slack threads. That's pretty cool. And the other thing is, the next thing I want to set up is my Grafana alerting to go into Slack, tag the Kagent Slack bot with the description of the error, and then the Slack bot to read the error and figure out what is going on in the cluster to then give us a detailed overview in the thread of here's the error, here's what the cluster is saying, and here's potential like fix. That's kind of like where I'm going to go with it next. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Let me know what you think. Feel free to drop a comment down below if you've built something similar or if you can think of a better use case of it.